Today, we're going to turn our attention to the blue stripes on the Chicago flag. The stripes represent Lake Michigan and the north and south branches of the Chicago River. The Chicago River is not only a gateway to the Great Lakes, but it is also a route to the Mississippi River and from there, the Atlantic Ocean. Please enjoy the story of the Chicago River told by the Chicago River. Thousands of years ago, the glaciers that covered Illinois carved me out. At my deepest point, I am 26 feet deep. 52,000 boats of different sizes carry people and goods on me every year. I may not be as big as Lake Michigan, but I am just as important. I am the Chicago River. Let me tell you a little more about myself. The Indians were the first people to take advantage of me. From Lake Michigan, they paddled their canoes onto me and then onto the Des Plaines and Illinois rivers. From there, they could enter one of the longest rivers in the world, the Mississippi. As I said, Indians were the first people to use me. However, the United States also began to see how valuable I was for transporting goods. In 1804, the U.S. government wanted to make sure they had control over me, so they built a fort on my banks. Do you remember the name of that fort? I'll give you a clue. It's the first star on the Chicago flag. It's Fort Dearborn. Do you think a lot of people lived here along my banks? In the early 1800s, my banks looked like this. It is good to be located so close to a major waterway. As more and more people and boats began to use me, Chicago got bigger. I helped Chicago grow into a large industrial city. That means businesses were there and they can move their goods on a boat, and then once the boat docked in Chicago, the goods could be transferred to a train. Once on the train, the goods traveled to places in the United States that are far away from Chicago. By 1871, more ships docked on me than at the ports of New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, San Francisco, Charleston, and Mobile combined. Also, in that same year, a very awful thing happened to Chicago. Do you remember what tragedy happened to the city in 1871? That's right, the Great Chicago Fire, the second star of the Chicago flag, started on the south side. People rushed to my bank on the north side for safety during the fire. They hoped I can stop it, but the fire was so strong its flames leapt over me to the other side. Even though I wasn't able to stop the fire, I was able to help Chicago rebuild. Boats carried supplies on me to help rebuild a bigger and better Chicago. In 1881, a terrible disease spread through Chicago. It turns out that sewage and industrial waste dumped into me flowed right into Lake Michigan, which is where Chicagoans then and even now get their drinking water. Thousands of people died from diseases called typhoid and cholera that travel in water. The city decided to reverse my flow by building the sanitary and ship canal and installing a system of locks so that I wouldn't flow into Lake Michigan. I would flow away from it. They actually did it. Fewer people died from typhoid in 1910 than in the 1890s. Now the drinking water is still safe, and I am the only river in the world that flows backwards. Today, my banks are lined with buildings, some that people live in, and some where people do business. I have 52 movable bridges. What do I mean by a movable bridge? Well, if a boat has a mast that is very tall, my bridges can split in half and rise up so that the boat can pass through. Of course, this annoys many people who try to cross the bridges because it takes about 15 minutes for the bridge to go up, the boat to pass through, and then close again. Quite a lot has happened to me since the days before Fort Dearborn. Fun things happen to me around St. Patrick's Day. They dye me green. Isn't that cool? You can take a ride on a water taxi to many different places. You can take a tour of Chicago and learn about the building, or you can take a walk on the Chicago River Walk, which is an open walkway located on the south bank of the main branch. Today, I look like this.